enjoy. And I really love where I'm living. Like, just Canada is so beautiful, and like we have so many trails and to explore as Canadians. We don't know our own land, and
Yeah.
I just inspire everyone just to go out and just enjoy while you can. Like Canada, specifically BC or any other province. I haven't been yet, but it's on the list. Just go outside. Just do your thing. Enjoy nature.
Warning. The 4x4 Canada podcast contains discussion about exploring mountains, camping beside lakes, and enjoying the outdoors. Guests also talk about jumping race trucks side by side, racing 1,000 horsepower rigs across mud pits, and jumping monster trucks over stacks of buses. None of this is for the faint of heart. The 4x4 Canada podcast is not responsible for bringing out your inner adrenaline junkie or making you want to get out there and explore the back roads from coast to coast. The 4x4 Canada podcast is not responsible for broken parts due to jumping your vehicle, hitting mud poles too hard, crossing deep streams, and doing other dumb shit. However, we will take credit for inspiring you to explore mountaintops, spend quality time outdoors with your friends, or meeting new like-minded people, and most importantly of all, following your dreams.
Hello and welcome everyone to the 4x4 Canada podcast. I'm your co-host Trisha.
And I'm your other host, Wes.
And I'm Stephanie from Skyward Overland.
And I'm the other half of that team. I'm Clay.
Oh, man. Really looking forward to you guys coming on tonight. We've known each other for a few years, and every time I'm with you guys, it's just lots of laughter and lots of fun. And even before we're recording, we're sitting here laughing for 10, 15 minutes. So always a good time. So as you heard, it is Clayton and Steph from Skyward Overland on Instagram and YouTube for their one YouTube video.
Oh, thanks for calling me out on that one. You have one video on YouTube. You can't see it, but beside me on the desk is like the mission board, and I've got 17 post-it notes and lots of stuff on. Yeah, the YouTube's been a challenge, man. Like, I can't even understate that enough. Just the amount of time it takes.
You're also a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that too, right?
Absolutely.
You and I have talked about that before, how I'm like, just release it. And it's, no, I still got to tweak it.
I think the hardest part for me is that if it's not something that I would enjoy to watch, and the video that we have out, there's flaws in it. Don't get me wrong. I see them, but I had a story in that video that it was a story I just felt like it had to be told. And it was fairly quick from the time it happened to the time I released it. I was like, oh man, I just felt super inspired to tell that story. Because we record basically every other weekend. We go out on trip and collect as much video as we can. I guess just haven't felt ultra inspired like that by any of the subsequent trips we've done. Not quite like that anyway.
Yeah, it takes so much work for YouTube stuff, right? I can't imagine. You guys do a lot of great stuff on your Instagram. You have a lot of good reels and a lot of good posts. And
yeah, I think I have a sickness where I see the stuff. I go and I pick through the videos. I'm like, oh, this is a sweet spot. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, look at these fun. Oh, a piece of candy. And then I just rabbit trail and collect up all these really great little clips. And then I have to share them. And then when I do that, I guess probably look at the reels and I go, oh, I already did that. Maybe I don't need to put that on YouTube. It's one of these things where I get down this rabbit hole of one, it's probably some self-doubt. One, it's the creator's complex where you have to feel good about what you've done. And as a musician, I used to be a professional musician, and that was the hardest part of that too, was writing and being confident about what I was doing and everything else.
I find that when I go out, I've got to put what I've taken that weekend. I want to put it all out like right away. I don't know how Ryan Van Veen does it, where he's posting stuff from 2 months ago.
That blows my mind. I'm like, oh my God, when were you there? And then he'll post something where I was there. And I'm like, bro, that was in January. How is that fitting into your feed so perfectly? I don't know how he does it.
I don't know. When you're out with the camera and the drone and that, do you do the chimping thing?
What's the chimping thing?
when I did a lot of photography when I was in Ontario, and we would go through and we'd look at our screens. We're like, ooh, 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 that's awesome.
Yeah, I guess we probably do that a little bit. Usually it's the drone, because the drone is such an incredible tool for capturing an ultra cinematic or ultra like interesting perspective of whatever you're doing. Yeah, I can't understate that enough. That if I pull something off the drone, and you know what, I got to say this about Dwayne from Just Jeep and Adventures. I got to shout him out, because that guy is a machine. Like he is never not in like on his game, because he'll go to bed at camp, and he's got Starlink, which is a huge plus for him. But he goes to bed at camp early, like shuts it down. We're all sitting around the fire having a beer or whatever and hanging out. And Dwayne's, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to bed. I'm like, dude, it's 9:30. What are you doing? And he'll go to bed, but he's not going to bed. He's going to run reels and pull stuff off his drone, and he's working. I just got to tell you, he's a machine. I just love the guy.
Yeah, definitely awesome guy. We've had Dwayne on, I think it's 3 times now, eh, Trish?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was super grateful for him shouting us out last time he was on, because we've actually listened to the podcast, and it was like, Steph was getting tired and wanted to go to the bed. And I was like, no, hang on. It's coming. Just wait. I'm telling you, there's something cool.
No, it was really amazing to hear. And bless his heart, he is amazing.
Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
So another shout out. Yeah, shout out to Dwayne from Just Jeeping Van. Check him out on Instagram or YouTube. And we've talked about it before in the podcast, but him and his wife absolutely love to cook, and they are great cooks. And so definitely recommend, if you haven't listened to the episode with Dwayne, go back, check him out. And we've talked about some great meals and great ideas for meals while you're camping. So, yeah, they definitely know their stuff for sure. So,
yeah, when were we out? We were out with them a couple months ago or a month ago, and we were winter camping, and the Dutch ovens out and all this stuff. And Steph had to work through most of the weekend, but she met us on the Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night. She met us. Oh, so we took like the long way to get to this lake that you could just access from the main highway. And Steph like cut through it and met us that way. But we're at camp, and the deal was Jill cooked dinner the first night. I cooked breakfast the next day, and then Steph and I made dinner the Saturday night. And we had the most amazing tacos. The like camp prepped, like fresh ingredients, camp prepped pico de gallo, and everything was fresh made. So for everybody out there, she's going to be annoyed for me telling you this, but Steph is a professional chef. And so she's a kitchen manager and a professional chef, very talented. And she's an amazing individual. I can't tell you enough of that.
I have to add to that, I'm also a pastry chef.
You're also a pastry chef.
Yeah.
And a chocolatier.
It's
so
important.
And also Clayton works in the alcohol industry. So Trish, now you know why I love hanging out with these guys. Cooking, pastry chef, and alcohol.
And there is always a splendid craft beer in my and there's usually something to share. Yeah.
So how did you two meet? Steph, I know that you're not from Canada, and I know that you grew up in Europe, but you grew up in Germany, Steph.
Yes, I'm born and raised in Germany, and I came to Canada about 13 or 15 years ago through work. And we met actually on social media. Gotta say that. Clay asked me like, hey, you want to go on an old style, just meet and greet coffee? I'm like, okay, sure, yeah. And I'm like, what do I have to lose? I'm like, nothing. And so it was quite an adventure. The first couple dates.
We're going to call them dates.
Let's date. Yeah. And then, I had to poke his butt a little bit to kept going. But
pardon?
Yeah, that's not going to... She had to keep after me a bit because, I don't know, when we met, it wasn't like each of us were looking for anything. Yeah. And it was one of those things, it was just like, hey, do you want to chat on here, or do you just want to go and get a coffee, like old-fashioned coffee, and just talk to each other in real life?
Yeah.
So we did, and then we met, and Steph didn't really like me. And I can't blame her. It's the truth. It's the truth. We were both kind of, that was really nice. And some friends of mine were like, oh, how was the date? And I'm like, oh, it was great. Yeah, it was really good. And they're like, I don't know, it was okay. Yeah, it was great. It wasn't like we were out like searching for soulmates. It wasn't like that. So when we had another coffee after that, a week or so later, I think, And then it was a little while. We just didn't really, and Steph's waiting around for me to message her. And I'm just kind of like, oh, it was fun. That was Anyways, when we finally did, we went for a hike, and then in the Vernon area here, they decommissioned all the small line railroads. And so they've turned all of those railroads into walking and bike paths. And so we ended up going for like an 8-kilometer walk down the rail trail.
And by the way, Clay doesn't like to go on hikes or long walks. Like
I don't walk much.
No.
If I can avoid it. I have pretty bad knees, and it just...
That's why you have a Jeep.
That's exactly right. That's why I have 4 low. And if that thing won't go up where I want to go, I don't need to go there that bad.
Take your Jeep for a hike. I see that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. I guess the rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I impressed him by cooking a meal for him.
Okay, let me. That's the proof. The first time that you cooked me dinner was at your house, and it was like 3 ingredients, and it was phenomenal. It was incredible. It was spaghetti squash, prawns, yeah, and like a chicken feta sausage thing. And salt and pepper.
Nice.
Unbelievable. It was so delicious. I don't even know how you did it. It's like magic to me. I mean, I can cook, I think, but not like you.
That's a way to a man's heart.
Yeah, I said it, yeah.
So, Clay, I know that you grew up in the outdoors, right?
Yeah.
You're a interior British Columbia guy, and you grew up in the outdoors. But what about you, Steph, in Germany?
I grew up in a small village, and like growing up in Europe is a little bit different than to guys here in North America, Canada. We don't have the landscape and all this beautiful surrounding area, like endless forests and just nature and wildlife. We don't have that. Well, I was hanging out like in the village with all my friends and on their mopeds and riding down into the little forests and just doing sometimes not the easiest stuff. Yeah, like getting a lot in trouble, but farmland for sure. And I didn't have a lot to do with like vehicles and like growing up in a really countryside, but I grew up in the countryside a little bit for sure. But our tradition is a little bit different, and our education and how we got raised for sure. So
yeah, definitely.
There's definitely a little bit of more of a difference, and I see that in our kids as well. Sometimes I'm like, okay.
So did you get into the outdoors when you moved to Canada, or was it Clay that really turned you on to the outdoor stuff?
I really enjoy the outdoors, but not to the level we are in right now. When I met Clay, I had no idea or no desire to actually do 4x4 or even like go wheeling. Rock crawling was for me a word I have never heard before. And I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit nervous, but I gotta say Clay is a really good teacher and calming me down, walking me through, like, when we go like on a really long rock crawling trail, he say, okay, you got to calm down, pick your line, I will walk you through. And I'm really nervous because I'm not very familiar in wheeling or rock crawling yet, but I gained a lot of confidence and knowledge over or within a year of doing that, and I'm getting better every day.
Yeah,
I'm not afraid. I know what to do, and if I'm like not 100% sure, I'm like, hey, get on the radio and okay, like I'm gonna do this and this. Is that exactly what I should do, or do you have any other recommendation for me? And he is very calm and very supportive.
Aww.
It's something
But
that
I
we
love
should
outdoors. So like everything what has to do with nature. I love photography. I love hiking, and now taking the Jeep for a hike, for sure. Yeah, like I really enjoy and I really love where I'm living. Like, just Canada is so beautiful and like we have so many trails and to explore as Canadians. We don't know our own land, and
Yeah.
I just inspire everyone just to go out and just enjoy while you can. Like Canada, specifically BC or any other province. I haven't been yet, but it's on the list. Just go outside. Just do your thing. Enjoy nature.
Yeah, definitely agree 100%. We should probably let the listeners know, then we'll kind of foreshadowing a bit here, but you guys have 2 Jeeps. Steph drives one and Clay drives one. That's
Yep.
so awesome. I think that I absolutely love that. And you're the only couple I know, or one of the very few couples I know that are driving 2 Jeeps. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. And the vehicles are done with the same wrap and they look absolutely incredible. A JKU and a Gladiator. And they look so sharp.
JLU, Steph's is a
JLU, sorry.
22 JLU Rubicon,
Yeah,
and the Gladiator's a 2020
right.
JT Rubicon.
Yeah.
They're both 3.6 liter, 6 speeds. So they're manual gearboxes. And I have to say, back to Steph's rather novice level when she started, I have to say, like, I'm going to tell a little story here about our first run through Whipsaw in 2023. I'm actually going to get a little choked up because it's awesome. So Whipsaw has been like a bucket list trip for me. I drove like an 86 XJ, like a 2-door 86 XJ. It was a bush beater. I think I bought it off a guy for $500 and it needed a clutch. So I was like, all right, I can do that. So I'm a mechanic by trade and we did that for 15 years. So I was like, okay, I'll buy a clutch and go get the flywheel machine or whatever. And I took the transmission out, did the clutch, putting the transmission back into my driveway. I like was doing it by hand. And an AX5 is not, yeah, I got to, because I'm prefaces. This was an old AMC, the dying days of AMC. So these Jeeps had a 2.8 liter GM V6 in them and an AX5, like the smaller version, like the 4-cylinder transmission that you would find in like a Wrangler or a 4-cylinder Jeep. So they were underpowered anyway. But so I'm like, this transmission is not that big. I can handle this. So I'm laying underneath it for a half hour trying to wrestle it in and had to end up calling a guy to come and help me because I couldn't hold it up anymore. I was like pinned underneath and I'm talking to him on my phone and speakerphone. Anyway, long time ago. This is back in 2008, I think, when I built this rig. And so I could never trust that Jeep. After I did that clutch swap and then I drove it down the block and back and I parked in my driveway and it was like, I'm not driving this thing. This V6 sucks. So I was working for a towing company at the time and they had a smashed up Jeep in there that had everything I needed to put a lift, 4-liter high output from 91, axles, everything. I would never recommend that to anyone that's thinking, hey, I'm going to go and do this swap. Don't buy something that's newer. Buy a 90s Jeep. Don't buy an 80s XJ. They're terrible because nothing lines up. Nothing at all. No, nothing plugs in. Nothing. It's terrible. So it was a Frankenstein Jeep. So I couldn't trust that Jeep to do the whipsaw. I wanted so desperately to. But at the time, I was a young parent, I had 3 kids, and there was no way I could afford to actually build a rig that was more reliable. So I stuck around Kelowna and like where I lived and did the local trails and spent a lot of time just doing that. And even then, the thing was trouble. Fast forward to now, and we're 2023, we're hitting the Whipsaw Trail and we're at the pullout at the Whipsaw turnoff. And it was just like, man. Like, this is so awesome. I was the most pumped out of everybody because I'd never done it. Steph was like, I don't even know what we're doing. And, and then our friend Lori had run it with her husband a week prior. She just wanted to do it so she could drive. So she'd just been there. And I was like the only one that was like really pumped. Well, anyways, so we get going through Whipsaw and the rock obstacles. If you watch some of the old reels that we have from that trip, I'm bashing frame wheels off of rocks and another guy's not making it. And then Lori's doing it and everything's fine. But Steph is just like crawling over everything, not running into nothing. She's just like a pro. And so like, it was super awesome. This was the first real wheeling that Steph had done. We'd done lots of trails and some like washouts and little things, but she's hitting every rock obstacle that I'm on and just crushing it and like absolutely no fear. And then we got through, I think the second day because we camped at a little lake before Memorial Rock.
Yeah.
And then when we got to Memorial Rock, I was like, I have to do it. Like,
Yeah.
I have to do it. So I think I lined up on it first and pulled up. And as I was pulling up, I'm like, I just want to see how steep it is. Because the camera, and for everybody out there that watches the Whipsaw Trail or Memorial Rock on YouTube, the camera just subtracts half of the steepness of that rock. It's very daunting to pull up to a wall of rock and then turn your nose up it and just drive. And I pulled my tires off the ground climbing it. So I pulled up it, and then as I was like ramping up to get like level on the rock, I have a trailer hitch skid plate from Body Armor that like I felt it drag through the dirt, and I'm like, that's going to be a shovel. So as soon as if I try to back out of this, I'm hooped. So I was just like, okay, first gear, lockers in, let's go. And I just drove straight up the rock. It was awesome. I was like, I want to do it again. And when Steph she's like, okay, I don't know. And you're pretty leery about it. It looked daunting.
I was hesitant too. Okay. Just calm down and just in front of it, and it's just your wall. And like I travel with our dog Theodore, and he's amazing. I gotta say, like every time when we hit an obstacle, he's like in there and just going with the boulders. And okay, mom, it's okay. Like you can do it. Like he's just sitting in the back and enjoys the ride, and I'm like, okay,
yeah. So
we're gonna think that through.
Yeah. And so you leaned into it.
Yeah.
And went up the rock, and it was flawless. It was perfect. You went up and over the top. And I think doing it a second time, all of that thrill, or only like 60% of that thrill's gone. And you're like, oh, I can do this. I know that's not that bad. And you just drive up and over it. But the first time,
I probably hold my breath the whole time I was going up. I'm like, okay, no, I can breathe.
I think you did. But the part of this that I'm trying to get to is the emotional response you had to that at the end of it was so heartfelt. And like, you were emotional about the achievement.
Yes.
And that was the real deal. It could have gone a multitude of ways, but the actual experience was perfect. And when you got over that and you'd like all the anxiety at the bottom of the rock and kind of trying to calm yourself and breathe through and like really get settled so you could make correct decisions on the way up, it all worked. And you went up and over the top. I don't even know if you spun a tire. It was perfect. And you settled into the bowl at the top of the rock, and you're just like, oh, and emotions let go of it all. And it was
well, I had tears of joy and proudness, and like it was very emotional for me.
I regret it now, but I ran up to the Jeep and I turned the camera off because I was like, oh, I wouldn't want Steph to be embarrassed. But really, honestly, that was one of many very real moments that we've had on a trail where this is the real deal. And I regret turning the camera off, but it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. For the very first try through, she did every rock obstacle, everything, every big water hole we did. And you went through that water hole twice, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
It was like watching Steph's wings, like not bloom. What does a bird do?
Fly.
Molt or whatever. They're like, their wings become wings. They like,
yeah.
It was like watching you become a wheeler. It was
awesome.
It's the caterpillar turning into the butterfly.
That's right. Sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's awesome.
I was thinking more like eagle, hawk. I'm like, yeah. Butterfly wasn't where I was going. But
Such a confidence booster, though, eh? Yeah, for sure. So you guys got the JLU and the Gladiator.
Yeah.
You've obviously driven both of them. And there's obvious differences between them. Wheelbase is a big difference.
Yeah.
Let's get some thoughts on the comparisons, because your vehicles are built very similarly, if not identical, very close to it anyway.
Very close, yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on the comparisons between the two of them?
So the JL, they both have the exact same lift from Clayton Off-Road.
Yeah.
They both have the Overland Plus 3.5-inch lift. They both run Nitto trail grapplers and 37 1250 17s. At the time, for most of the wheeling we've done up until now, we both had similar offsets on wheels, and that's the sort of thing. So yeah, they're very much the same. The thing that the JL doesn't excel at is carrying a load.
Yeah.
That's one big difference, is that we load out the JL full and you feel it. I've got basically 600 pounds when the Gladiator's empty, there's 600 pounds in the air with the cab and the tent.
Yeah.
And I don't notice it. Some of that comes down to that we don't run the same shocks, which we have done a couple different shocks in Steph's rig. And the 2.0 King monotubes that are in there now are actually fantastic. Like for basically their most basic shock, no reservoirs, none of that. They're fantastic. And when we installed them, it was like the old Fox shocks that were in there would rattle your teeth out when you hit a pothole with the Kings, and it was just like you like brace up when you see it coming. You're like, oh wait, that wasn't that bad. So it was a big difference. I've got the Falcon 3.3s and the Gladiator only because that came with part of an affiliate thing we did with Clayton Off-Road, which was shout out to those guys for helping us out when we were really small. We're still really small. Well, we had 300 followers maybe. We were really small, and they were like, yeah, okay, cool. Because they're a small company out of the States, and they're not Fox or any of these big dogs. So it was cool for them to agree to help us out a bit and give us a deal. And I was like super stoked about that. But comparatively, biggest differences is load capacity. The Gladiator just carries the weight a lot better, and the turning radius. The JL can like literally run circles around the Gladiator. Yeah.
It's that wheelbase thing, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think wheeling it all comes down to just being particular about the way you wheel it. So I don't actually drive the JL that much. I haven't really driven the JL wheeling in 2 years. So my like experience of that rig, of Steph's rig on the way it's set up now is real limited.
Yeah.
Right after we upgraded from the original suspension and stuff that we had in the Jeep from the factory, because we did actually get the dealership to do some work to it before we got it. And we ended up taking all that crap out. It was all just, I'm not even going to talk about the brands or the stuff that was in there, because I don't want anybody to get any reputation or good or bad out of it. We were not happy with what we had. So we bought the Clayton Off-Road Overland Plus system, drove down to our mailbox in the States, picked it up. We had Capit here in town, put that lift in as part of the reason we were getting everything taken out by the dealership. Yeah. Long story. And then almost immediately after that, we bought the Gladiator. And that's been my ride since. So
I remember talking to you at the Vernon Overland meet a couple of years ago. And it's like you had just bought the Gladiator and you hadn't done any modifications to it. You were still with the JLU, and we were sitting there talking about it, and you were so excited. And
I was so stoked. Sitting at the house and like waiting for the ARB twin and the Kraken air system and all this stuff. It was all sitting there. I was like, hey, gotta get home soon here, guys. I gotta
go. That's great though. So I had a thought. Trisha, take my thought and run with it?
No, I did not.
No, we don't like your thought.
Sorry, Trisha, I've been asking all the questions.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
As it usually happens.
Was it?
It was, I don't know what my thought was.
Oh, no.
Go take that baton, Wes. How is she just supposed to take your invisible baton?
That's why I was hoping she would pick it up and run with it.
What are your favorite camping meals that you guys like to do? Is there something in particular, something that once in a while you're like, we got to do that favorite special meal that we love so much?
We are known a little bit for our breakfast.
Yeah.
We also like hunters. So we always have meat in the freezer, what we harvest either the year before or just. We like to cook deer meat, if it's deer meat or moose or any other animal, where we just harvest and have like in the freezer. So we like to take that on the trail and camping. And if we have company with us, we love sharing. So if anybody is going with us, they never go hungry. I grew up in a very big family, and I always cook for lots of people.
Somehow I always manage to end up at your campsite in the morning. I don't know why.
It's the aroma.
Yeah,
food.
the smell travels. Just chunks. So yeah, like that is one of our to-go breakfast items. Like Clay is known for cooking the greatest and best eggs ever.
I'm not going to divulge my...
No, he's not. That's tell the secret.
I can't give away my secret. I've told too many people already. But it doesn't matter how you like your eggs. I got you. Yeah, I got you. I can boil an egg like nobody. And that's actually, it's funny to say that, but it's actually the way we prefer to do eggs on the trail. There's way less mess. You're not dirtying dishes to cook them. It just makes more sense. And so if you want a soft egg, you get a soft egg. If you want medium eggs, you get medium eggs. And if you want powder, you get powder. So yeah, I can boil an egg.
But getting back to your question, Trisha,
Yeah.
I prefer, if I'm like with Clay going camping, if I have the opportunity once in a while, just because my job is taking all my time. I like to cook simple, but very tasty. Sometimes we have salmon on cedar planks, or just like a simple rice dish, from butter chicken to spaghetti, or just plain burgers.
I think, I guess where I was going to go with this, and if you will agree, is we have a lot of different food. I don't know that there was like a favorite, except for maybe breakfast. Like breakfast is a set thing where it's potatoes and bacon and breakfast meats, and we get a little bit. Sometimes we go a little bit overboard. I've been known to cook for an army when there's only 3 people, but I think we have a diversity. We've done, I think the last Vernon Overland Connect that we did, Steph did salmon on a cedar plank.
Yeah,
it was phenomenal. We've done butter chicken at camp. Yeah,
it was in the wintertime. Yeah,
it
was really good.
It's really good. And then, like Steph was saying too, about the meat we harvest in the fall, it's a huge staple everywhere we go, whether we're at home or on the trail. We take a really big responsibility for that and making sure we get the most out of hunting. Yeah.
Now, Steph, I'm knowing that you are a professional chef. I've seen your knife skills, and I gotta hang out with you one day for a little bit and teach me how to use a knife, because I'm okay, but watching you, it's all done, and it's, holy shit.
Thank you.
It is. It really is.
It's an art.
It is art. When we were out with Jill and Dwayne, when Steph was making tacos and all that, man, oh man, they were both just standing there like with their mouths open. Wow. Watching her go.
Yeah.
And I have to check myself. My knife skills are improving, but they are nowhere near professional level. And I don't ask questions very often of how to do things, but I just watch really closely and how it is that she goes so fast and doesn't cut her fingers off.
Yeah.
One of things like I got from my dad, he passed it on to me, as well as the photography.
Yeah, no, it's definitely impressive for sure. Speaking of photography, what are you guys using for cameras and your drone?
So I used to go out with cameras, just the Canon cameras, but I had to sell them because they get really old. So I wanted to do something more suitable for what we are doing. And we borrowed a Sony A6400.
Yeah, A6400.
And I gotta say, if you are a Canon user, it is very hard to get into it. And so most of the time I regret actually buying it. But then I'm stubborn and I'm German. So I'm like, okay, like you gotta get used to it and you gotta figure it out. And one of the things I couldn't figure out was, why is when I do movies, why is it just gray? Like the white balance was like out of place and everything. And I'm like, I can't figure it out. I'm like, it drove me to the ground. Like it was like so annoying for me. I'm like, okay. And like at one point, like I was just sitting down like at winter camp and I'm like, okay, guys, you got to help me out. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So for using the Sony, I'm just going to use it for making movies and like just the reels and just doing video. But going back to photography, I'm definitely going to recommend, if you used like a Canon before, I love my Canon and I'm like deeply sad about it, but it's going to be in the future that I'm going to go back to Canon for sure.
Yeah, I was running Canon for a number of years when I was in Ontario doing all my photography there. And when I moved back to BC, I found the cameras were getting so good in the phones that I used my Canon less and ended up selling my Canon because I never ended up using it. But now I'm getting back into photography a bit more, and I can see myself going back to a Canon within the next year.
Yeah.
The phone cameras are so well these days that it's sometimes hard to get away from that.
Other than the A6400, which I think one of the regrets of buying that is that we probably didn't do enough diligence in researching the camera, because aside from the differences between Canon and Sony, it was supposed to be a very solid videography camera, except that it doesn't have image stabilization. And it's one of the only Sony in that line that don't, which is frustrating, because when we did call the camera shop when we picked it up, we're like, hey, wait a second, this doesn't have image stabilization. They were like, oh, you could sell it back to us at a loss. I was like, what? So it takes phenomenal pictures. It takes really great video, like on a tripod, or we have a carbon fiber camera slider, motorized one. So when it's on there, it's dynamite because everything's very stable.
Yeah.
But aside from that, we use basically GoPros. We have
And there were cell phones.
cell phones, but we have a pair of GoPro 10s that takes most of the handheld shots and anything in motion, or if we're in the Jeep and it's like sometimes we'll hang a camera on the dash.
Yeah.
It isn't a GoPro 10, but there's like something about the horizon finding where you can see the vehicle moving under the camera that like really makes that a desirable shot to look at.
Yeah.
But other than that, our handheld cameras are just GoPro 10s, and then we have a series of kind of disposable, like older GoPro Hero 3s. And so if you see some content where there's like a camera mounted outside hanging off the side of the Jeep, that's a GoPro 3, because if it gets knocked off or run over or something, we're not out $400. It's $50 kind of disposable camera. It still takes great video. They're not great in low light, things like that. But there's certain angles that I wouldn't want to hang a $400 or $500 camera from.
Yeah.
And then when you can put something out that's in a hard case, that it'll be safe in a multitude of situations, water and all that kind of stuff.
When you said disposable, I thought you were going to talk about your drone.
Hey, no. That only happened one time. Yeah. So what Wes is talking about, everybody, is I did definitely take my drone for a swim for 2 weeks. And yeah, we did get it back. Spoiler alert, we did get it back. And yeah, it was, that's the story about that first video, that one video we have that was so intriguing to me, is when I got the drone back and we had the card in hand and I could see the video. And when the drone hit the water, the image on the controller died, obviously, because it lost connection as soon as it hit the water. But the camera didn't stop rolling for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So the drone went under and hit the bottom, and you could see it like crater into the silt on the bottom of the lake.
Yeah.
And then everything just settled down. And it was cool. It was fairly shallow. It was fairly shallow. It was only about 17 feet.
Yeah.
And I know that because I went after it with a boat, with a fish finder, and then went after it again with a boat, and then I went after it with a scuba diver, and we finally got it back. Big shout out to Ryan Conlon from the 4x4 Association of BC. Super good guy. The funniest story about that is I'd never met him. And we were at a 4x4 Association meet and greet that Mike Tiskin from Unexpected Off-Road set up here in town. And we just went to hang out and meet people. And I was walking through all the rigs at this meet and greet with Calvin from 97 Customs, and we're chatting about things. And he was like, hey, he looks at this black Tacoma and he's, hey, why don't you get that guy to go and swim for your drone? I'm like, what do you mean? What about that guy? And he's, it's got the diver down flag on the back of the truck. I'm like, diver down? What the hell's that? He said, the red rectangle with the white line through it. That means diver down. I'm like, oh, hell, I don't know. And then Steph says to me, she goes, oh, yeah, that's Ryan. I know him. We did some catering for him a little while ago. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's go find this guy. And so I get walking through the event and I see the chapter president, Jason, standing there talking to a guy. And Steph goes, that's him. I'm like, no kidding. So I walk up and just stood there and let them kind of finish chatting their conversation. And then I was like, hey, you got the diver down flag on your truck? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, I crashed a drone in a lake. And he's like, you're the guy. And I'm like, I'm the guy. You're the guy. He's like, you're the guy. And I'm like, I'm the guy. So he's like, when are you going? I'm like, me and a buddy, we're going to go swim for it tomorrow. And he's cool. What time? And that was it. The rest is history. And he brought his dry suit, dual. He had two sets of air tanks just in case it took us hours. And he was like, yeah, I'm in. And he suited. It
didn't take long to do it either.
I can't give it away. I can't give it away. But we went back to the lake third time, and finally we did get it. But the video is going to be awesome because there's a ton of stuff that happened in that 2 weeks that is just like mind blowing. Like, why does this have to happen to me?
But to our
Well,
listeners, you got to go to Skyward Overland on YouTube and watch the first video.
Yeah,
And
please do that.
It,
And subscribe and do all that, because
exactly.
it really, and that'll help motivate me to get that second version of the video up, the second out, for sure.
What is your favorite season to one wheel, camp, or just like exploring?
I know the answer to this one. Like, I know this one.
So the favorite season, let's say what is my least favorite season.
For
I tell you what,
aspect of that, for camping or wheeling?
wheeling.
Okay.
So
least favorite. to
that's the least favorite season. Oh yeah, the least favorite season. I'm sorry. English is very hard sometimes. Is winter. And I tell you why. Because I am not good at winter wheeling yet.
Okay. Fair
That
enough.
makes me very uncomfortable. We had a few situations where I fell in panic mode, and just every corner or every road what is super slippery or trail, it triggers. And I'm just freezed up and can't do anything, make stupid decisions, and I'm very slow. What is sometimes good,
slow in the winter is good.
it is. But then you have like Clay. I'm like, okay, are you coming? And I'm like, yes, I'm enjoying the scenery.
I think the difference is that I'm in 2-wheel drive and going, when we went out for your birthday in February.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I ditched my truck like 3-4 times on the way home because I was horsing around and traction control off. And I think I stuffed it in the ditch like 3 times. And that's not something Steph feels comfortable sliding all over the road. She'd be my big arcing like drifts around these corners. And I'm having the time of my life. And she's back there going, oh my God, it's that slippery.
Don't do what that guy is doing.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. And my favorite season and camping, or like my favorite camping, like camping spots or camping.
Like just
No,
like,
like-
season, like do you prefer like winter camping, fall? Do you like summer?
So the season in between, when it comes like from spring or from winter into spring.
Okay.
So it's
cool.
still a little bit cold in the morning, but not too cold. And you still have, I'm a big sucker, if I can say that, of when I'm going down a trail and in the valley, it's starting to become green, and like the brushes are starting to bloom, and everything is just yelling at you like, I'm coming in spring. Here we go. And see like that mountain peak still with snow, it brings me tears. I gotta say, I cry when I see that, because that is a perfect picture.
Yeah, picture perfect. You got it
Picture perfect scenario for a camping spot. We have one favorite one, what I'm not going to say.
right. Yeah, we're not, no coordinates.
No, I'm sorry.
No, all good.
But
No.
last year we went there and it was so amazing. Like, I just barely couldn't sleep because it was just perfect.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to fall, like all the fall colors, and like every photographer is just going to scream at all the nice colors on the trees and the little change of falling leaves. And
Yeah.
It is.
Steph likes the shoulder seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the cold.
And I have to say that my favorite season to wheel has to be the winter.
Total opposite.
Total opposite. I love wheeling no matter what. Like, you point me in any direction and I'll go.
Yeah.
But there is an inherent challenge, and I think that's the part that I like the most, is that there is a challenge about driving down the road in 2.5 feet of snow, or 3 feet, or 5 feet. Or there's so much more to it that for someone that's not experienced, like, I can see like how Steph would find it absolutely daunting. Whereas I've kind of, like you say, I grew up in the backcountry and was always quads. And this is the first, like, that's my Gladiator's name, by the way. Atlas is the first rig that I've built that is try and stop me.
Yeah.
It's like, I haven't found a thing yet that holds it back. And so I think the winter is probably my favorite season to wheel in, especially now that I'm rocking the KMC beadlocks. Like, that was a game changer. I've been at 3 PSI on non-beadlocks before, but there is another level of stress involved in that because you have to really be careful with what you're doing. And so it takes actually a lot of the anxiety out of being at 3 PSI, which you've got beadlocks and you're like, okay, I know I'm okay that way. I'm not going to blow a bead unless it's really bad. Like, I can't imagine a situation where you're pulling the inside bead off would actually happen. So winter is my favorite season to wheel now that all the kind of stars have aligned in that way. And I think I got to say it's my favorite time to camp too, because I work in the public service and there is never anyone around in the winter.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. You are not running the risk of taking 2.5 or 3 hours to drive somewhere and find it full of other humans. And so, yeah, you can drive up the hill 10 minutes into the most populated camp spot in the summertime, and there's not a soul around.
Yep.
Something about the quiet, the peace of that. Like I say, our lives are pretty hectic most of the time with peopling and children and the teenagers now, and we've got 2 adult kids now, but it's just everything's hectic. And I like no people. I like people, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I like no people probably more.
Yeah, we've got a spot here 15 minutes from my house that I've been winter camping this past winter. I camped up there probably 3-4 times just because I can quickly load and get there, and then there's nobody there. But you go there in the summertime and it's just packed because it's 15 minutes from home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And that was like our very first adventure, very first camping adventure before we had bought the Jeeps or anything. It was like our 2021. Yeah, it was in 2021 for my birthday. We went camping, and we still had our old dog, Haley. She's departed now, and the idea was that we're going to go to this spot that's been like my stomping ground since I was a little kid. We used to ride quads over the mountain to this spot like 10 or 15 times a summer, just as kids for fun. And it was like, let's go. I'll take Steph out to show her the lake and how like great little spot is. And so we drove out that night on a Friday.
Yes.
I think it was on a Friday. We drove out on a Friday night. We're like, we're going to get there early or late at night and hijack the camp spot, the best one. And so that just in case anybody else had the idea to go out here, we drove out there, and as we were in, Steph had a 2010 Jeep Commander at the time. Like an all-wheel drive. It's more like a car than a 4x4, but it had 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Steph loved it. And it was a great car. Don't get me wrong. It was a fantastic vehicle. But we drove out to this spot, and it's not far. It's like maybe half an hour from here. And we're on the dirt road. The trees are starting to get closer together. And we up over this little rise and down just over a little hump and around a corner. And there was 2 mountain lions in the middle of the road. And they like bolted into the bush, and we were only like maybe 500 meters from the camp spot. And it was like, and I was sleeping in a ground tent with Haley, who at the time was like a 13-year-old dog that didn't walk so good and couldn't really see that good in the dark. And I was like, well, we got to rethink this because I don't have a shotgun. I don't have bear spray. I don't have anything. I have a 13-year-old Doberman meat shield that is not going to help me at all. So we're like, okay, let's set up this camp spot and then go out. We'll leave the tent here, and then we'll drive out and sleep the night at home, and then I'll just run back to my parents' house to my safe and grab my shotgun, and then at least we have something. And then Steph met me out there later that night. And so I got a chance to set up camp and all that stuff for our friends that were coming out, and it was good. But at the same time, that night, it's 11 o'clock, and I think this is right around when DMX passed away. And so some kids showed up with a pickup truck full of pallets and took the less desirable spot across the way. And we're like pumping rap music, and they're pumping DMX. And like, don't get me wrong, I know all the words. I get it. And so I had to walk over. It was like 11 o'clock, and I walked over, and I thought about taking the shotgun, but I thought that was a little too far. I walked across to their campsite, and I'm like, yo, guys, I get it. Long live DMX. But it's fucking 11, pardon my French. It's 11 o'clock. Can you guys tone it down? And they said to me when they pulled in, they're like, hey, if you need to come over and tell us to shut up, you just come on over, man. We don't want to offend anybody. And I'm like, all right, guys, it's time. I'm getting old here, and this is too much. And unfortunately, that was not the end of the noise for the night. They ended up deciding they needed more firewood from the pallets, so they were running like a DeWalt battery-powered skill saw at 3 a.m. Anyway, it was a rough night, but that's why it's okay. I think it's right with camping.
Winter camping.
Yeah.
And there's no bugs.
That's right. Bugs and the no bugs. That's the second thing. No bugs. And with a diesel heater, there's no problem. Yeah. That was another big, best $130 I ever spent on Vivo. So good.
Yeah. I love my diesel heater. Game changer. I wouldn't be camping in the wintertime if it wasn't for the diesel heater.
Yeah. I know people that use some other heaters like is it the Camp Buddy or the Buddy? Yeah, like the propane one. In an enclosed space, that's a little bit dangerous to me. If the fact that we can leave the heater outside and pipe hot air in, like we've been out in as low as minus 18.
And then the fact that you can run the pipe into your sleeping bag, so sleeping bag's all nice and warm inside. And
that's a great idea, Wes.
And that might be a good idea for you, but for me, I don't think I'd rather sleep outside then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will take that risk. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like a furnace.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm like a bear. So I go to bed hot and then that's why I go to bed, no blankets. And then in the middle of the night, I wake up, I'm like, oh, I'm freezing.
Same here.
It's like, Steph, why didn't you cover me up with something? Then getting out of bed in the morning, I don't care what temperature it is, it's cold.
Yeah.
Cold. Yeah.
That's the problem, right? You get so used to it inside and you get dressed or whatever, and then you go outside and it's like, shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. It's, and it's funny. That camping trip that I was just talking about actually was catalyst actually for buying Steph's Jeep.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's true.
The road was a little funky going in there with a runoff kind of trench in it. And we're like articulating through it. And I'm by articulating just driving through it and spinning tires so they were pulled up off the ground. Steph was, wow, this is awesome. And I looked at her like, you like this? She was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, all right.
And that's how it started.
That's how it started.
I took the trigger on it. Like I just pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're gonna invest, because the Commander got a little bit older, and I'm like, okay, do I really want to invest a lot of money into it or not? And then half a year later, boom. Yeah, and it was funny because we looked all over for other Jeeps too, right? Use something. We just never found the one. Yeah, we had one that we were like, yeah, this is all right. It was a JK 2016, I think, JK or 2017, like a kind of late model JK. Rubicon had all the bells and roof rack and spare fuel, and somebody had built it to be like an Overlander to tow behind their RV, but realized that it was a Rubicon and you can't flat tow it.
Yeah.
So they're like, whoa. So they sold it to a dealership where Steph had bought in cars before, but they wouldn't go any more than five grand on the trade. It was like, these things are selling for 15 grand on the private market. So we thought about that and we went to a couple of dealerships and test drove a JL and it was like, oh. But actually that was an automatic JL. And we both were like, yeah, I don't really like it. It's nice. It's like driving a Cadillac on mud tires, like really good in the on the highway everywhere. Like we're cornering at like 80 or 90K and I was like, man, this is amazing. This thing isn't trying to throw me out the window. What the hell? My old XJ would literally try to eject you out the door. Try to do that. Yeah. But it's funny. It's funny. That was the thing that got us to finally got us to think about it. Yep. And then it took us a bunch of months, but then we just said, you know what? We don't like the automatic. And we factory ordered a manual Gaia, Steph's Jeep, without even driving a manual Jeep.
Now,
it was like new.
Steph, a lot of the vehicles in Germany, a lot of them are manual, aren't they?
Yeah. I think like the past few years, more and more automatic came through. But we grew up only there's a saying like what my grandfather always told me. I was like, if you can't drive a tractor, you can drive anything. And that's what we did. Like we all drove and learned on standard and going like back and forth, like from standard to automatic, especially here. It's just sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't need to put in gear. Like, oh my God, like what's happening? Yeah, no, standard it is. And it was for us very important that we have standard vehicles, like standard Jeeps.
I think last year on Whipsaw, we were coming through to the last obstacle on the Princeton to Colmont route. Like when you go Princeton to Colmont, we're in like the last obstacle. I don't know what they call that, the stepping stones or the stairs or something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyways, and the first time I went through, it was a challenge for me. Fresh lift, hadn't wheeled the Gladiator really before that. And I got turtled on it. Not turtled, but couldn't just make it over. And got really frustrated. And it was just Steph and Lori with me. And I was like, well, if I break something, it's going to be bad. I'm not going to. So I backed out of it. And we went around on the second time through in 2024. We were catching up to these guys all the time with a bunch of Toyotas, Land Cruiser guys. And I don't know if you've seen Twirly Stash on Instagram. His 80 series is dynamite. Anyways, so these guys, we caught up to them for the third time during the weekend or during the 3 or 4 days we were out there. We caught up to them and they were at this obstacle really struggling. Nobody had a line. It was spinning tires. It was really tough. Nobody had really aired down as low as they maybe should have and was really struggling. So we just parked way back from them and walked up and started watching the rodeo. And so we finally get them up and Steph wasn't going to do it. She was going to take the bypass.
Yeah, I said, I think they're going to skip that.
So as she we're wise to go up to the obstacle or up and around the bypass. She's like sitting right there at the Y, and Buddy with the Land Cruiser, I think, or maybe it was a Toyota on 40s or something. Was like, well, I'm going to come back and do it again. Or no, was Mosh went? I don't know. I think Moshe went.
No, Mosh.
Yeah, Mosh went first, and then Buddy's, because I got him up a line. It was like he just drove straight up it, and they were like, "What the hell?" So they're like, I'm going back. I'm going back. You can spot me up this thing. I'm like, okay. So they all come back around. But what happened is Steph got piled up in the mix and ended up the trail towards the rock. And it was like, well, after Mosh was like, you're committed now. You can't. It was side-by-sides came by.
The side-by-sides came by. It was blocked for me to go around it. So I had no choice than going up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't really want to do this.
Because watching everybody else struggle can be demoralizing. I don't know if I'm going to make this now.
Yeah.
And so once we got Moshe up, and then Steph was like, I'm in here. And she's okay, I'll just do it. And it was funny because we were standing there. She gets kind of lined up. Mosh gets her lined up, spotting her up. And she goes up and over the top. And then I came up behind her and did it after. And I was like, I already seen this line 15 times. Like now I've seen Mosh do it. Steph did it. And then I got the guy in the Land Cruiser up it. I was like, yeah, I know this line. I know where it is. And so Mosh is at the top. He's like, do you want me here or do you want me not or what? And I was just like driving and I'm like, get out of the way. I drove up the obstacle. And as I was coming up and trying to keep my speed down because I'm still on 410s, and it gets up and tries to just come up over the top of the one part of the obstacle, and it stalls. You can hear the guy on camera go, whoa, that's a manual? And then everybody on the ground was like, yeah, they're both manuals. And the guy was like, what? She wheels a manual? Yes, she does.
She's a girl.
What? She wheels a manual?
Yeah, people I've seen wheel manual. I'm like, kudos to you because that shit is hard. I'm sorry. I'm like, how does your knee not break? Like, how you not? Like, how do you do that? Because I have a friend who she has a manual Rubicon that I wheel with. And I'm like, girl, I don't know how you do it. I really don't know how.
But it has a lot of pros.
Oh yeah.
To drive a manual, especially in obstacles, going up the mountain like really steep. I don't know how people do that in the automatic.
Yeah.
But you have way more control.
Yeah.
Manual.
Yeah. That's I hear. Yeah.
And it's similar in the snow. Like wheeling an automatic in the snow, unless you're on like 58-inch or 46-inch big flotation tires, and then it's not really as
even a lot
critical.
Of them run manual.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. They do. But being able to go very slow.
Yeah.
So that's where the Rubicon comes in big time, is the 4-to-1 transfer case. First gear is so slow and it's direct drive. Like it's your connection to the drive line is direct. So if it clutches out and the engine's running, you're moving.
Mhm.
That's where it all comes into play when you get like most of the other people we wheel with all drive automatic. So like Dwayne's, his is a 4-cylinder turbo, and it's done up as it has a fair amount of horsepower. And then Mosh is on an automatic, but he's on tons and 40s. So again, we're getting big tire sizes. It's not as critical because he's got the flotation. But most of the time when we're snow wheeling, I'm breaking trail. And only because the actual connection between the engine and the tires is so direct that if I'm driving and I'm going slow and it starts to go up a hill, it doesn't slow down.
Mhm.
It doesn't go, oh, I need a little more throttle. Now you're sitting there feathering and playing with throttle responses. And then, oh, we got a little bit too much. You spin, you sink. Dang it. Back up. So it works out for snow for sure. Way better to be manual. And in the rocks, I find it, as long as you can trust yourself and your engagement point for your clutch release, you know, I've stalled in the middle of some hairy shit before. And it's, oh God, we're on fins, or what's it called? The tilt-a-whirl on Whipsaw with Moshe. And I am like riding these knives up this on one on each tire, and I'm in the middle of it. And if I slip, I'm going to do body damage. No buts. I'm gonna crumple a door or something. Like, it's gonna be not ideal. And I'm in the middle of that. I get the front tires up, and just as the back tires are coming up to the thing, it stalls on me because I'm trying to keep it as slow as I possibly can. Which again, gear upgrade is coming for Atlas, but yeah. So 410s and 37s, it's a little too fast, and so I do stall often. But even restarting on that obstacle, because this thing is so slow, and as long as you just feather it out, and I think a lot of people are afraid to feather the clutches in the JL and the JT because of the fire problem that they were having. I think the fix for it, for the computer that they put in, is the worst thing that they ever did. They took torque away from the motor when you're actuating the clutch. And so if you're on a hill, if I'm in 4 high and on a hill, even at 3% grade, and I go to take off in first gear in 4 high, it stalls. It has no power. None. Zero power. It is the worst. I then have to stick it into 4 low. Yeah. Put it in second gear, get rolling, third gear, fourth gear, shift up, get to somewhere flat, put it back in 4 high. That's one of the biggest things that I have to complain about the Jeeps, is that obviously it wasn't meant for 37-inch tires, but
yeah,
come on.
They could have designed that a bit better. Yeah.
That's the other thing I got to complain about Jeep. I hope Jeep's listening.
Jeep, you're listening.
Electric power steering pumps. Come on. At least if you're going to do that, at least let the pressure be up so that they actually work when you're trying to come down the switchbacks at Merrill Mountain or something when it's really tight.
So I caught your JT, your Gladiator's name, which is Atlas, but I didn't grab Stephanie's name for Jeep. What is the name of your Jeep?
Gaia.
Gaia.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is the story behind those?
What's the story?
I think Clayton explained that in a better version of English than me, so I will let him.
So really, honestly, we weren't going to name them. Like, this is before we had the Gladiator. It was like, it's kind of cliched, name your Jeep. I don't know. And then I was like, that's dumb. I don't really like that. But then when the Gladiator, when we got the Gladiator, it was like, okay, now we got 2 of them, and we've got this branding thing going. Like, our branding is pretty on point, as you said, with the wraps and everything. So it was, maybe we could name them. When it was going to be like, Steph drives the beautiful Jeep, and I had actually bought a Jeep TJ that I was building, and that was going to be called Igor, because it was like, it's a Frankenstein. It's still a project for one day, but yeah, not today. And so then it was like, oh, maybe we will name them. Well, we're going to name Steph Jeep Beauty because it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful Jeep. And then the Gladiator was going to be a little bit more extreme than it actually is now. We decided, no, that's not the way we want to go. We want this thing to be functional, drivable, daily drivable type of thing, and still capable in wheel. So Beast wasn't going to be the right name for it. And then I think I was looking at just like Greek mythology stuff, like history, and was going over Greek mythology. And so then it was like, oh, hang on. I wonder about like Titans, right? Because the Titans are these mythical beings that were like gigantic, and they fought the Olympians and all this stuff about in Greek mythology. And it was like, oh, okay. So we got to talking to Steph. I'm like, what do you think of this? What do you think of like Gaia and Atlas? And so Gaia, I don't know, and on the hood decal on Steph's Jeep, it's spelled Gaea.
Oh, EA. Okay.
As if it was the more Greek spelling. And then, so anyways, we get talking about that, and she was like, I love that, because Gaia, for those that don't know, is the earth spirit personified as a titan. It's the kind of the creator, the mother of everything, the mother of the world, mother of all the titans. And Steph is very connected to the earth and very much in the nature, the mountains. This
I thought it actually pairs together too. Two Jeeps pairing when I go Greek. Yeah, I love it. I like it.
Yeah, and the Gladiator was like, I thought of, because there's other, we couldn't do like one Titan and one Greek god, like Ares, like that. And even though I love all this Greek mythology stuff, it didn't really fit. And actually what triggered it was that we had put the tent on the cap on Atlas, which looks like a big box on the back of the truck. So it looks like it's that cliche, or not cliche, but the stereotypical image of Atlas turning the world, which is actually not accurate to the myth. The myth is that Atlas was imprisoned by Zeus because he was the leader of the Titan Olympian war. He was the leader of the Titans. And so when they lost that war, Zeus put him in chains, and his punishment was that he had to hold up the heavens, not the earth. So he is actually one of the pillars of the earth. And so Gaia, Atlas, and there's other Titans. I don't have all the information on hand, but I rabbit hole very deeply into things. And so this is where my life was days of reading. I'm like, oh, wow, this is awesome. Atlas, Gaia, this is what it has to be. And Steph was like, yeah, I love it. So that's how they ended up being.
It really fit.
It fits. And Atlas carries all the weight, and Gaia is beautiful.
Yeah, just elegant.
Just like you two, right? Totally match your vehicles.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
Calling me fat, Wes? No.
I'm not going there.
Just kidding.
So you guys are working with a few different companies. You mentioned Clayton Off-Road before, and their suspension products and that. Who else would you like to give a shout out to?
A big shout out to Adams Off-Road in Langley. They are well grown on us. Clay has really great connection to Adam and one of their guys, Jason. They're dear friends. They treat us like family. And to be honest, we trust them with our vehicles when we bring them there. And we can leave them there without even just, hopefully everything goes right. Because we had things in the past where we not happy, and just the trust issues are like we have a Vivid Lumen, amazing lightning. It's just the lights are you can actually glow a mountain with it, or just put something up in space. Clay tried that before and it works.
It does work. Yeah, I did. I was at a radio tower up in the mountains and on the south side of Vernon by 20 kilometers. And I called my son and was like, hey, can you go outside for a second? And so he goes outside, and I'm like, hey, look down towards the lake. And he's okay. And I'm like, I turn the lights on, and he's like, is that you? I'm like, yeah. And I started turning the lights on and off. He's like, holy crap. And he took a video of it, and they are bright. It's like the brightest thing, because it's in pitch black. You can't see any stars or anything, but it's brighter than the city light standing there. And so anyways, I had to call my parents in Armstrong, which is another 30 kilometers past that, and talking to my dad on the phone. I'm like, hey, can you see that flashing light? That's awesome. It's like, so what is that? I'm like, that's me. He's holy crap, where are you? And it was, so it was over 40 kilometers, and you could still bright as day. You could really. So Vivid is definitely, and they were one of our really early adopters too. Yeah. We got on board with them really early. They outfitted Steph's Jeep with all the lights. And then when we got to Gladiator, it was like, hey, can we do another one? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. So that's the 8 FNG5 lights across my windshield. They're intense.
Graphic Enterprise for sure. We had some problems. My Jeep, it's wrapping. We took Clay's Jeep to another company. Yeah.
And they actually rebuilt, because the original company wouldn't give us the file that we paid for. And so we had to like collect the source files and take it to the new shop and be like, hey, here's this Jeep. Can you make this wrap look like that wrap? And it's phenomenal.
It looks
and
awesome.
They did a way better job. Yeah, big shout out to Graphic Enterprises, 97 Customs, Calvin, 97 Customs. Big shout out to him. He's helping me design a fridge slide right now and a bunch of stuff.
He's amazing.
He's amazing. He taught me how to build cabinets so that I could build my own DIY power box and tool storage and stuff. Yeah, he's a stellar fella and a real dynamite friend.
Yeah.
I got a couple more, I think.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I know. Freedom Recovery Gear. Richard from Freedom Recovery Gear is just an incredible human being and has been so good to us. We did have recovery gear from another place, from another manufacturer that got stolen. My truck, the Atlas got broken into.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah. And all of my recovery gear, kinetic rope, snatch blocks, everything got stolen. And so that was super frustrating. And when actually, another big shout out to Adams Off-Road and Unexpected Off-Road and all those guys, because that was right after that happened. We went on the customer appreciation run with those guys up to the Tayax Lodge. And when everybody was getting their door prizes from the event, just like 75% of everybody donated all the recovery gear that they won to get us back up and running. And then we've been to Freedom Recovery Gear and he's made us some stuff right on the spot on hand. Just to show Steph how it's done. Here, look at this. I'm going to make you a thing, and it put her name on it and everything. It was great.
It was like really, it touched my heart that you could see how it's been put together and all the knowledge what is behind it. And he's such a amazing human.
And his passion for his product and for the off-road industry.
Yeah.
And for the people that use it. That's the other thing that I really got to say about Richard is when he's making stuff and like he buys other people's products to break it so that he knows he's building a quality product. He breaks more stuff from other companies. He's got bins and bins of all this test stuff, and it's all labeled and documented with what it broke at, what it was rated for, all this stuff. He's doing all this R&D of his own volition so that he's building the safest product he knows how to do. And it's higher quality than most anything you get factory on a winch. Don't buy soft shackles on Amazon. It doesn't make any sense to risk your life. I used to work in towing and recovery for a towing company and as their mechanic and stuff. So it's like the number of heinous injuries I've seen from failing recovery equipment, and not because of misuse, just because of overload. And somebody didn't really look at the label. So if you're not sure, call Richard and he will tell you. And even if it's not for to sell his own product, because he's not really a sales guy.
He's not.
Like he is. That's what he does. Right. He pumps his own tires to sell his products, of course. But he's going to give you the straight information, and he'll tell you what's wrong with certain things. I mean, he doesn't say everything's wrong with everything, but if he says, don't go buy this off-brand thing because I broke one of those on purpose on my test rig 2C and it failed very lowly, so he's just an incredible human being, and he's very passionate about what he does, and he just puts everything he has into what he does. And I'm super
definitely
impressed.
A big shout out to Richard from Freedom Recovered Gear. He's a good friend of mine, but even if he wasn't, I would still be pushing his product, even if he wasn't a friend, because I believe in it that much, and I believe in his passion and his knowledge. And definitely a great guy.
Then just a shout out to Jason. From Jason.
Yes, Jason from Hydra Concepts.
Yeah.
Hydra Concepts is our go-to powder coater, and he's been through a lot this last year. Since his wife or his partner was killed. So I don't know how he does it. He's the strongest man I've ever met. I don't know how he does it, but big shout out to him because he's still grinding hard and working is harder than anybody every day. And he does fantastic work. Big shout out to Jason from Hydra Concepts. Iceco refrigerators, Iceco freezers. We are brand ambassadors for Iceco this year. So big shout out to them. If anybody follows us on our social media, click the link tree if you're looking for a fridge. We do get a little kickback and you get a discount for using our link. Do that.
And stay tuned for...
Yeah, that's coming out. I'm going to bring that up right now, actually, because it's literally landing tomorrow. And so it was funny. It was like out of the blue after a few cooking reels that when we were out with Dwayne, we were in Washington, wheeling with Josh from Off-Road Go-Kart. and having a blast of a time. Anyways, we put up all these food reels and us hanging out at camp and having fun. And then we got a message from a company called Around Fire. And so Around Fire they call it the most portable fire table. It's collapsible, collapses down into a suitcase size piece, folds out into more than enough room for 4 people in the smallest version and 8 people on the big one. It has a fire pit in the middle of it that's made out of 304 stainless steel mesh that you can put briquettes in, you can put wood in, you can do anything like that and cook around the table. And if anybody out there has ever done like fondue or a raclette, it is the opportunity to work with them, because they reached out to us and we're like, hey, we like this thing. And then when they found out what Steph was a chef, they're like, oh, we're just going to send you everything we have. So a big shout out to them for jumping on board totally out of the blue and offering us the opportunity to promote their products. And like I say, it will be out for delivery in the morning. And so watch out on our channel for some stuff to do with that, because we're real excited about it. I can't wait to make like skewers and steaks and everything on this table and just sit right there at the table when you cook, and everybody can cook their own thing. And I'm super pumped.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's going to be cool.
Yeah. We're going to have it at the Vernon Overland Connect.
You just mentioned Vernon, and I just want to give a shout out to the Vernon Overland Connect. It's a overland gathering in Vernon, British Columbia, coming up this weekend on June 7th. And that's actually where I met you first, Clay, two years ago, I think it was. And we did talk to Andrew and Mike a couple weekends ago about that. If you guys haven't listened to that podcast, go back a couple weeks and listen to it. It's basically a real fun event. We talk about what's coming up, but maybe if you just want to get a shout out to the Vernon Overland Connect.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't at the first one. You and I met at the second annual. And then last year, that's when everybody, like that camp after the event, man, how many rigs were up there?
It was awesome.
It's huge. Normally, like I said before, I'm not a real people when I'm not peopling. So it was everybody up there was like exactly on the same page. Everybody was on the same page. It was phenomenal.
The best thing about that is I got up there early and I hadn't eaten all day. I was going around doing interviews and all that, and I totally forgot to eat. So I went up there and I just quickly ate something. But after everybody else rolled in, I just walked from campsite to campsite and had a full meal. It was awesome.
Isn't that not the best?
That's the best.
Nobody got left behind. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I think at Overland Connect this year, we're going to have the Around Fire table fired up with briquettes, and we'll be cooking up some stuff. We'll probably make breakfast, actually, because it starts at 10 o'clock. So I think we're probably going to get fired up and get going and fire up the cook partner and get the table going, and we'll make sausages and whatever, do breakfast at the event. And there's that we are going to actually be bringing little tiny cups of ice cream.
Ooh.
So in my free time, I'm actually working for an ice cream company, what makes the best ice cream. And so I will bring some homemade ice cream.
Ooh.
Steph is the genius behind this ice cream, I have to say.
So
I've many
if you ever
talents.
need a man on the side, Steph, I'm available.
I
Get out of here.
I guess I asked his mother, I'm like, okay, can I return him? And she said, strict, no way.
Absolutely no return policy on me.
Well, but I keep that in mind. Rest, keep that in mind.
I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys at the Vernon.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun time. It always is. And I always love hanging out with you guys. Once again, we're talking with Clayton and Steph from Skyward Overland. Check them out on Instagram. It's probably the best bait. They got these 2 matching Jeeps, and it's always so much fun hanging out with you guys. I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah, likewise.
It's definitely going to have to do more this summer. I know I reclused in the winter because I'm not a winter wheeler, but we're going to have to get out and do some stuff this summer for sure.
I got a passenger seat by him.
There we go.
Steph doesn't always like to come out when we do the really hairy stuff, so I always need a swamper.
There we go. You need somebody to pull out the winch cable, right? That's what my dad said, that he married my mom because he needed somebody to open up the gates and pull the winch cable.
Sounds like a good man.
Smart man, right?
Smart man.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, going to wrap it up here, but I really appreciate you guys coming on board. Skyward Overland, check them out on Instagram and their one video on YouTube.
Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, man.
Maybe that will help. So, yeah, we are on YouTube.
Cut me deep.
We hope that with a little bit more time and knowledge, we will get the YouTube channel going.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of work, and that's why not a lot of people are doing it. And once we are like in the role and keep going and have it nailed down and not being like 100%, let's do the 80%. And just get it out. It's a learning curve, and just bear with us.
Yeah.
There will be more.
Please do. There will be more. And for anybody out there that is trying, I know we're trying to wrap it up, but for anybody out that's trying to do it, best advice I can do as somebody that's not succeeding at it exactly at the moment is, this is advice I got from a filmmaker. It's shot discipline. You record everything in B-roll if you really want to, but have an idea of what you're doing before you go. And so that's something that I'm trying to learn, because a lot of the time we go out and it's somebody calls up and it's like, hey, we're going to go and do this. And it's like, yeah, okay, let's go. And it's okay, grab all the camera gear, grab all the camera stuff, get everything in the truck. And then we go. And then it's like, shit, what are we doing? What is this even about? Why? What's the story we want to try to tell here? And so to try to story from what you recorded is way harder than shooting a story when you're
I was talking to Sean for Storytell Now, and he said the exact same thing. And he said sometimes he's even got his titles ahead of time before you even go out.
Oh wow! I was just making it up on the fly, but it sounds like sound advice. It's something he would say too, actually.
It is totally. He said the exact same thing. He goes, "Go out there with that in mind, and just make things so much better." So,
yeah. Because definitely when you don't, trying to pull the epic shots and the epic films that he puts out, having to try to pull that out, you're like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting this thing that obviously Sean just makes it look so easy? He does it once a week. Like, shoot, I can barely do it once a year. Actually, coming up on the 1st of June will be a year since that video came out. I'm so ashamed of that number. Oh my God.
It's okay, man. It just, I mean, that's why Tricia and I've cut back to an episode every 2 weeks, is because life gets in the way. And I thoroughly enjoyed your first and only video.
Just keeps dragging that in. I just I can feel that right in my back. Is that the 4th or the 5th rib? I don't know.
I'm trying to motivate you.
Thank you. Lighting a fire.
Yeah, exactly. I expect to see you.
Don't worry,
I expect in the intro for the next video. This is for you, Wes.
Yeah.
I'm actually not going to say Wes. I'm going to use your full name, Wesley.
George Kibble.
Exactly.
By the way, before we go, I know I bug you and stuff like that, but I do want to say happy birthday to you, old guy. Another trip around the earth. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys in Vernon here coming up.
Right on, man.
Awesome. Skyward Overland.
Thank you.
Check them out on Instagram and YouTube. And really appreciate you guys coming on today. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
So have we.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining
And thanks,
us.
everybody. Looking forward to seeing that subscriber count go through the roof.